Inside the Moscow talks, Traoré and Putin uncovered. In the heart of Moscow, behind closed Kremlin doors, a conversation unfolded that could reshape the power dynamics of an entire continent. One is a seasoned master of geopolitical strategy, the other a rising figure from the heart of West Africa, determined to chart a new path for his nation. This is not just diplomacy, it's a strategic dance of influence, alliances, and ambition. What really happened when Ibrahim Traoré, the enigmatic leader of Burkina Faso, sat across from Vladimir Putin? What promises were made? What secrets were exchanged? Tonight, we peel back the velvet curtain of protocol and step into the shadows of power. This is the story the world wasn't supposed to hear. On May 10, 2025, the Kremlin in Moscow hosted a significant meeting between Russian President Vladimir Putin and Burkina Faso's President Ibrahim Traoré. This high-profile talk took place during Traoré's visit to Russia for the 80th anniversary of the Soviet Union's victory over Nazi Germany in World War II. The event marked a key moment in Russia's growing ties with African nations, especially Burkina Faso, as both leaders discussed ways to strengthen their partnership. So let's explore the details of the Moscow talks, the context behind them, what was discussed, and why this meeting matters for both countries and the world. Who are the key players? Vladimir Putin. Vladimir Putin has been Russia's president for over 2 decades, shaping the country's foreign policy and global influence. Known for his strong leadership style, Putin has worked to expand Russia's role in Africa, offering military, economic, and political support to countries seeking alternatives to Western partnerships. His hosting of African leaders, including Traoré, reflects Russia's strategy to build alliances in regions where Western influence has faced challenges. Ibrahim Traoré. At just 37 years old, Ibrahim Traoré is Africa's youngest leader and the president of Burkina Faso. He came to power through a military coup in 2022, promising to tackle the country's severe security crisis and improve the lives of its 24 million citizens. Traoré has gained attention for his bold leadership and his push to reduce Burkina Faso's reliance on Western powers, particularly France, its former colonial ruler. His visit to Moscow signals his interest in deepening ties with Russia to address Burkina Faso's challenges. Why did they meet in Moscow? On May 10, 2025, Burkina Faso's President Traoré met Russian President Putin in Moscow, following Traoré's attendance at Russia's Victory Day celebrations, marking the Soviet defeat of Nazi Germany. The meeting, part of Putin's hosting of African leaders like Zimbabwe's Mnangagwa, focused on bilateral cooperation. Burkina Faso, grappling with extremist violence causing thousands of deaths and millions displaced, is shifting its foreign policy toward Russia amid growing anti-Western sentiment. Russia seeks to expand its African influence, particularly in nations frustrated with former colonial powers, highlighting the strategic importance of its ties with Burkina Faso. What did they talk about? While the exact details of the private meeting are not fully public, official statements and reports provide some insights into the key topics discussed. Security cooperation. Burkina Faso has been battling a worsening insurgency for years, with militant groups linked to Al-Qaeda and the Islamic State causing chaos. Traoré has made security his top priority, and Russia is a key partner in this area. Russia has provided military support to other African nations, such as Mali, through arms supplies and private military contractors like the Wagner Group. During the talks, Traoré likely sought Russian assistance in the form of weapons, training, or security advisors to strengthen Burkina Faso's fight against insurgents. Economic ties. Burkina Faso is rich in natural resources, including gold, but much of its population remains poor. Traoré has promised to use these resources to benefit citizens, and Russia could play a role in this goal. The leaders discussed economic cooperation, possibly including Russian investments in Burkina Faso's mining sector or infrastructure projects. Russia's expertise in energy and resource extraction could help Burkina Faso develop its economy, while Russia gains access to valuable markets and resources. Nuclear energy proposal. One of the most striking outcomes of the talks was Traoré's request for Russian help in building a nuclear power plant in Burkina Faso. This ambitious proposal, mentioned in posts on X, aims to address the country's energy shortages. Burkina Faso relies heavily on imported electricity, and a nuclear plant could provide a stable, long-term energy source. Russia, a global leader in nuclear technology, has built similar facilities in other countries, making it a potential partner for this project. However, the plan is still in early stages and would require significant funding and technical expertise. Political and diplomatic support. Traoré's government has faced criticism from some Western countries and regional bodies for its military rule and human rights issues. By aligning with Russia, Traoré may be seeking diplomatic backing to counter this pressure. Putin, who has often supported leaders facing Western sanctions, likely offered assurances of Russia's support for Burkina Faso's sovereignty and self-determination. Why does this meeting matter? The Moscow talks between Putin and Traoré have implications for Burkina Faso, Russia, and the broader global landscape. Here are some key reasons why this meeting is significant. Russia's growing influence in Africa. Russia is expanding its African presence, offering military and economic support to countries like Burkina Faso, Mali, and the Central African Republic as an alternative to Western partnerships. The Putin-Traoré talks underscore Russia's push to deepen its West African influence, challenging Western dominance and potentially reshaping regional alliances. Burkina Faso's pivot away from the West. Under Traoré, Burkina Faso is reducing reliance on Western aid, expelling French troops in 2023 and seeking ties with Russia and China. The Moscow talks reflect this shift as Traoré pursues Russian support for security and economic goals, sparking debate over the risk and benefits of this alignment. Energy and resource opportunities. A proposed nuclear power plant could address Burkina Faso's energy shortages, boosting its economy and living standards. For Russia, aiding Burkina Faso's energy sector offers economic gains and strengthens its role in Africa's energy landscape. Cooperation in mining could further mutual economic benefits. Global geopolitical tensions. Amid Russia's war in Ukraine and Western sanctions, hosting Traoré signals Russia's global relevance. The talks highlight competition among Russia, China, the US, and Europe for influence in resource-rich Africa, intensifying global geopolitical rivalries. Social media buzz and public perception. X posts show strong interest in the meeting, with some praising Traoré's leadership and others criticizing potential risks like authoritarianism or dependency on Russia. These reactions reflect polarized views on Burkina Faso's Russian alignment. Challenges and criticisms. While the talks open new opportunities, they also face challenges. Building a nuclear power plant is a complex and costly endeavor, and Burkina Faso's unstable security situation could complicate such projects. Critics also argue that Traoré's reliance on Russia risks isolating Burkina Faso from Western partners who provide significant aid. Additionally, Russia's track record in Africa, including allegations of human rights abuses by its mercenaries, raises concerns about the long-term impact of this partnership. What's next? The Moscow talks are likely the beginning of a deeper Russia-Burkina Faso partnership. Both leaders expressed optimism about future cooperation, with Putin noting good prospects in various areas. Traoré's nuclear energy proposal could become a flagship project, though it will take years to materialize. In the short term, we may see increased Russian military support or economic deals in Burkina Faso. For Traoré, the talks strengthen his image as a leader willing to challenge the status quo. For Putin, they reinforce Russia's role as a partner for African nations seeking alternatives to the West. As global powers compete for influence, the outcomes of this meeting will shape Burkina Faso's future and Russia's place in Africa. In a world where alliances shift like sand and silence often speaks louder than words, the Moscow meeting between Traoré and Putin is more than a diplomatic headline. It's a signal that Africa is rising, that the East is watching, and that new power corridors are quietly being constructed far from Western cameras. As these leaders carve new paths through old empires, the question is not what was said, but what comes next. Stay alert. Stay aware. Because the next chapter of global power might just begin where you least expect it. And that's it from today's video. If you found this insight valuable, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and let us know in the comments, is the world ready for a new global order?